We're kind of
Great.
excited today because, as you guys know, we've launched the FX 2.0 white paper. And we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of talk to the community. Like an easy way to understand it. There's obviously it's more complex than that. And then of course the peg keeping. The stability pool acts as a peg keeper for FXUSD, being able to swap either USDC or FXUSD into however it's needed to maintain the peg for the AMM. So those are the high level points. Guys, I don't know, Cyril or Charlene, if you guys want to add something, and then maybe we can kind of, take some questions. But those are the the key points.
Yeah, I think you resumed it pretty well. So yeah, the key point is fixed leverage, no individual liquidation risk, no funding costs, no volatility decay on the leverage part, and high USD delta neutral yields on the stable part. So that's pretty new, and you already dived into a bit of the details. Maybe we can start with how we achieve the fixed leverage in the first place, because I guess most people around and listening to this are familiar to the V1 model, and they understood obviously that in V1 the leverage is variable depending on the distribution between the leverage tokens and the stable tokens. In V2, the first improvement is that we managed to fix the leverage. Maybe we can start with this. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of the starting point. So, like you were saying, with V1, we were dependent on the demand for FXUSD. So the more demand there was for FXUSD, the higher the leverage level would go, right? So it was kind of like a balance in the system. But now with V2, I think we've kind of cracked the code. We've done something a little different. So the protocol itself can mint the required amount of FXUSD for that leverage, for that desired leverage level. And by doing that, you maintain that leverage level in the X position. And something else we should probably mention too,
Yeah.
X position is no longer a fungible token. So it's not like the X tokens in V1. It's kind of like I like to say, like, it's kind of like, staked CVX or a staked position that you might hold. You connect your wallet and you're going to have your position, in the platform.
It's
So that
important. Maybe before you go deeper, you said that the protocol itself can mint the FXUSD required to maintain a certain leverage level.
leverage.
It's very important to remind that all FXUSD are always collateralized by staked ETH, and it's not minted out of
Yes.
thin air. Because when you say
Yeah,
the protocol can mint FXUSD in order to, people could imagine that it's minted just some kind of magic trick.
Correct.
It's always
Maybe we should explain.
Always.
Yes, it's always collateralized 100%. So, the way I understand the simple way of explaining that mechanism, I think, is, if you bring one Ethereum to the system and you want one Ethereum worth of X position, but let's say you want a 10x leverage, we're utilizing a flash loan. So a flash loan is actually borrowing the other 9 Ethereum to basically borrow that Ethereum, mint the FXUSD, stake the ETH in the system, and then the FXUSD is swapped for USDC to be able to pay off the flash loan. So there's always Ethereum collateralizing the underlying. So there's always that collateral in the system. It's not like we're just minting FXUSD out of thin air. So it is a little bit of a tricky concept to understand. I know when I first, when Charlene ran that by me, I was kind of like, what? How does that work? Like but it's very, very innovative. And the cool thing about it, when you think about the knock-on effects, right? The cool thing about it is that you're basically getting more Ethereum locked into the system, earning staking yields. So that's like kind of a unintended positive consequence too for the system, and obviously TVL grows for the protocol as well.
Yeah, and as Kemet says in the comments, V1 needs stablecoin minters and X token minters, whereas V2 only needs leverage minters, as the protocol handles the stablecoin minting. So yeah, the base concept of fixed leverage is the fact that if you want fixed leverage, you mint at a certain distribution between the leverage part and the stable part. Whereas in V1, this distribution is directed by the market. In V2,
Right.
Depending on the leverage level you want, you will mint a certain X position, which will determine this distribution between the stable and the leverage part, basically. And the stable part, which may be required if you don't have it, you don't want to handle it, then you will be handled by a flash loan, basically.
Yeah, and I really love this part because to me, I mean, this is kind of the major unlock for V2, is that you no longer you're not dependent on the market's fluctuations or the market's demand for FXUSD. And that's obviously always a big problem, right? There has to be a reason for people to hold FXUSD. And now we don't have that chicken or the egg sort of situation. We take control over the protocol, and we can basically mint the required amount of FXUSD using the collateralized ETH that was borrowed from the flash loan to support the leverage level needed. So I think that's very, very innovative. We no longer need to really be dependent on the market for FXUSD demand to maintain leverage levels. I think that kind of covers it, but maybe does anybody have questions about that specific part of it before we start moving into other more complicated? I think we should ask, in case people have questions.
Yeah, you say we solved the chicken and egg situation. Would you say we're now a chicken producing golden eggs?
I think we're the goose that's laying the golden eggs now. Yes, I think this is a pretty unique system right now, and I I think that it's not completely obvious when you read the white paper because the white paper gets very technical, but when you start understanding what the protocol can do, then you realize that this is a pretty significant milestone because it's
It
the
is.
first time that you're attaching the leverage demand to a stablecoin design. So it's really
And
interesting.
and the I think the key thing to understand as a leverage user and is that, like, for instance, even in the latest 24 hours, there's been like 350 million BTC liquidated and like something like 50 million ETH liquidated any sides of the
Hmm.
market. And most of these guys just got liquidated by a week, and the market probably would have given them like profits a couple of minutes of
Yeah,
hours later. The FX model protects you from that, because even if that would have liquidated you on a regular perp, with FX you stay exposed to the market and you don't get liquidated and you just follow the market. So that's
right,
basically what you're protected from using
right.
FX. And
And I
so
think we should,
yeah,
I think we should also like be very, very clear. Like just because we're saying no liquidation risk, it doesn't mean you can't lose money. Obviously,
yeah,
your position can go down in value because it's just like everything else. It's still a leveraged position,
yeah,
but
exactly.
it does protect you from scam wicks. It does protect you
Yeah,
from having to manage your position consistently. Um, if things do really turn downwards, the system. I mean, no perp dex does this, right? The system is basically taking your position and kind of resetting it at the same leverage level, so you kind of get another shot at a higher. And so if there's a rebound, you're back to where you started. So uh, no perp dex does anything close to that, and
yeah,
obviously no perp dex charges zero funding fees as well. So
yeah.
very innovative, I think.
Unique
But
value
yeah, I wanted
proposition.
to say that because I think that people kind of misunderstand zero liquidation risk with like, oh, we're never going to lose any money, and I think
Yeah,
we
they
need to be
term point
careful.
that out.
Yeah.
But
Also, this system is different than V1 because V1 really is kind of a set it and forget it kind of a product. Whereas I think V2 does really, even though you don't have to monitor your positions, it does inspire more trading, right? It does, especially at the higher leverage levels. Like when you're at the higher leverage levels, people are going to be trading in and out of the positions more frequently.
yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Which is
The way
good
I
for the protocol,
the way
right?
I
Because
see
that's
the
good for
liquidation
fees.
break is a bit like, I don't know if you guys have ever played the game Zelda. Obviously, some have. It's just like, the little hearts, the lives you have when you get hit by an enemy. You can just lose a heart, but you still have another heart to play again, and it's a bit like the liquidation break.
Like another life in the game.
Yeah, another life, exactly.
Yeah, exactly,
In the
exactly.
trading
That
game.
makes sense.
So we explained
Yeah.
how the fixed leverage is handled, but um, that's the one time at the time you mint the X position, you got this fixed leverage, but the leverage can fluctuate, right?
The leverage can fluctuate, right? So as the price of Ethereum goes down, right, the leverage level actually goes up, right? So because you have a lower priced Ethereum, and then you still have the same amount of FXUSD that's backing that portion of the X position, right? So in order for the liquidation break to work, it needs to burn a certain amount of FXUSD to maintain that leverage level. I think that's the easiest way to kind of understand it. Um, I don't know if you have a different way of explaining it, Cyril, or
No, I think
conceptualizing it, but
yeah, it's pretty well explained, and how these levels are going to be handled, because uh, I think it's probably important, the right time to introduce the band mechanism to explain how these different levels are going to be handled.
yeah, why don't you explain that? Because even I have a hard time understanding the bands level. I know that there's different bands which are kind of like the Curve USD bands where there's like a certain price level where the rebalance or the liquidation break is applied, and when it hits within those bands, then that's when the whole system is basically rebalancing and applying the liquidation break. That's how I understand it, but maybe there's a more
Yeah,
precise way to explain it.
we can stay pretty high level on that, because the idea is just to understand that all the X positions won't be handled individually, because it would be like very
Right.
gas consuming and inefficient. Rather than handling the X positions individually, they will all be tied to certain price levels and price
Right.
fluctuations, and they will all get rebalanced, or how do you say, liquidation? Like the liquidation break will happen at the same levels for all similar X positions, making it way more efficient for the keepers to handle the rebalancing, and for the users and gas consuming and so on. So that's basically it. So as the next position user and holder, you will want to see that what different thresholds are going to be, and it's obviously going to be very clear in the UI.
One other way to think about it, I think, is like, you know how with CRV USD, it says everybody has their own sort of individual bands, but with Protocol FX, with V2, it's done at the protocol level, and it's at a higher level with the whole protocol, all of the expositions in one band or in several bands. And so it's a little bit more efficient, and the protocol maintains and manages the liquidation break and the whole process. So there's nothing for you to have to set or monitor or change. So it's a little different in that you know it's not done on an individual basis.
Yep, that's basically it.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
And then you know, are we getting any? I'm not in the chat because I'm not seeing the chat. Are we getting any questions or anything that we should?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions Charlene already answered. It's probably interesting to maybe read them for the people listening to the replay. So there's a question from Ivan Gan asking if there's going to be a Genesis pool before launch. There's no, and Charlene answered, there's no need for any Genesis pool for the V2. And Panda asked if the flash loan contract is going to be audited. And obviously, as every single line, remember that, people listening, please, every single line of code into production has been audited with every Aladdin DAO protocols. That's said.
100%. Yeah, I think we need to be very clear about that. Everything is 100% audited. In fact, the contracts are in audit right now, I believe, right? So we're waiting for audit for the code to come out of audit. But yes, 100% everything is audited. I think we got another question.
Now I believe that's it, Charlene, and I think there's 20, maybe 21 now for FX only.
Yeah, there's several audits for FX. We got a question yesterday in the Discord channel that was about the way the minting was going to be handled, or the way the fees was going to be handled. And I think people thought that there was going to be additional fees to actually process the flash loan, and that's not the case. It's just one-time fee to mint the X position, and that includes all of the underlying mechanism, right? The borrowing, for the flash loan and all of that. But I think that was one of the questions that someone had in the community as well.
Yeah, to add a little precision on that. So now there are free flash loans around on the ecosystem. So flash loan doesn't occur any costs, but there can be a price impact because you have to sell the FX USD on the market. So there can be a price impact, but that's also the reason why you may have seen the FX USD USDC pool growing pretty quick, and the TVL is going to keep growing, because this pool is going to be major to make the protocol sustainable. So the price impact should be very minimal, especially using a curve pool. So yeah, that's it.
And we are using Aave too, right, for the flash loan, or Do we even? I don't know if we should. I think that's the
I'm not
case,
sure
right?
it's settled. I'm not sure it's settled yet. RV
That's
Flash
what I
loans
wasn't sure.
aren't free. I'm not sure about that. Maybe Charlene
Yeah.
can answer.
Maybe Charlene can comment on that. I don't.
Yeah, for flash loan, we just borrow from Uniswap
Okay.
Oh, units. Okay.
for the current technical framework.
Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah. Thanks for the heads up, Paul. It's important to mention that we just published a proposal to increase the emissions towards the FXUSD USDC pool to make sure that the TVL keeps growing and that there's sufficient liquidity to enable very large expositions opening and closing.
And there's a proposal going to be coming up soon, right?
It's
Oh,
just
weird.
published, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's up there. So yeah. So more fixed emissions to support that pool, because that pool is critical to the way FX 2.0 functions.
Yeah, exactly. So Paul posted the proposal in the community called chat, but you guys listening to the replay, you can find it on the Aladdin DAO forum as always. Make sure you read it and vote whenever it's open to. So there's a question I've seen a couple of times, and I think people may wonder is that when you open a leverage position, there's going to be FXUSD being sold on that pool, right? So how do we make sure there's not too much FXUSD selling pressure?
That's a good question.
Do you guys want to talk about the pegging mechanism?
Yeah, I think that we should talk. Yeah.
You know, I'm asking the question. I know the answers. I'm just making this as a conversation.
Yeah.
So who wants to? Do you want to take the answer, CryptoVestor or Charlene?
Yeah, I mean, well, the way I understand it is that the stability pool also helps act as a peg keeper, right? So it will basically purchase FXUSD when FXUSD is under peg, and the same, when in the other way around, it will purchase USDC from the AMM as well, from the stability pool to the AMM to maintain a perfect peg for the FXUSD USDC pool. And that's kind of, it's very basic, but the idea is that the same stability pool also acts as a peg keeper.
Yeah, exactly. So now in V2, the stability pool will accept not only FXUSD but also USDC in order to act as a peg keeper. But it's also important to understand that if it's not enough, there's a redemption mechanism that allows anyone to redeem FXUSD and at certain price to make sure there's a low cap for a potential depeg. So FXUSD spec is always protected by redemptions, and in case of that depeg event, no further exposition can be opened until the peg is restored. So you can be very secure with the FXUSD peg. It's well protected by both redemptions and expositions opening limitations in case of depeg.
But we should also mention,
in case the stability pool isn't enough to repeg.
Right, but if it isn't enough, right, that's where we need to kind of explain. That's where it does affect the leverage levels for certain expositions, right?
Yeah, it's probably just quickly important to answer the question from Wolfram in the chat. As V2 will use USDC FXUSD, do you expect impact on other pools like Go FXUSD? Obviously, every LPs with FXUSD will help strengthen the peg. The choice of USDC is obvious. USDC is the most liquid stablecoin around for now, so that's the best to build liquidity with, at least for now, and we expect to change that, but we have to start with the most liquid one. But all the other pools will help maintaining the peg, obviously. You can go for it.
And then of course, I think as if there is now, that's one thing that we should explain, like for stability purposes for the peg mechanism. If the peg if the peg suffers, then there will be a reduction in leverage, starting with the highest leverage positions first. So 10x, 9x, 8x, they get affected first to be able to protect the peg. Now, remember, this is only in extreme, peg keeping situations, right? Depegs. So this isn't like normal situation. Under normal circumstances, the leverage levels are maintained, they're fixed. But when there is some type of a depeg event, we are always going to protect the peg of FXUSD first. I think that's, I mean, is that correct? I just want to make sure that that's accurate.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the only, well, one of the only things that needs to be really understood when it comes to, maintaining leverage levels and that sort of thing. But under normal circumstances, the fixed leverage should maintain. As long as there's sufficient liquidity in the curve pool and in the stability pool, then there should be no major issues. These are just like extreme sort of scenarios. It's extreme scenarios.
Yeah, as always, when you build a DeFi protocol, you have to
think of everything, right? Think of all scenarios.
Every scenarios, because the main priority is the user's funds safety, and so you want to make sure you've anticipated everything, every possible scenario. So in case anything happens, we have the V2 has different levels of safety to come into place and protect the peg and people's assets.
Yeah, maybe we should talk a little bit about the stability pool and the yields, and I think that's kind of a big deal too. So the fact that the stability pool is actually delta neutral, USD delta neutral, I think that's very, very innovative too, because now we can really attract a lot of TVL, people who just want to deal with stable coins. They don't want to really deal with volatile assets. They can deposit USDC, they can deposit FXUSD. They're going to receive the part of the trading income from the minting of the actual expositions. They'll receive some FXN emissions, and of course the staking yield, the underlying ETH staking yield that's being deposited into the system, and that's all paid in stable. So for anyone who's really looking for like a stablecoin farmer, I mean, this pool is probably going to be one of the highest yielding pools because of the trading income going into it. Exactly. And I think that's just pretty innovative.
Answers the question of 0x Nick in the chat, which is a little challenging, and thank you for asking this question. So he asked, why would anyone want to hold FXUSD? And is the only attractivity of FXUSD the LST yield? And he says at 10x leverage, the yield is only 1/10 of the LST, right? But that's not exactly the case, because at 10x leverage, remember, we bring
you're bringing 9 times more ETH into the system that's being staked,
and there's always,
and that yield is getting added to the stability pool. Besides the exposition minting, which is also happening, and that's being added to the stability pool. So the yield for FXUSD is going to be very high.
Exactly. And the stability pool not only takes FXUSD, but it also takes USDC. And this USDC creates demands for FXUSD in case of arbitrage opportunity on the peg. So there's even if, let's say, people don't have a direct need or wants to hold FXUSD, they may want to get to take profit from that USD delta neutral strategy, whatever the stablecoin is. So they can come with USDC, whatever, it's fine, because these USDC will buy FXUSD if it's ever needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's another good point. We should bring up the arbitrage opportunity, right? Like, if FXUSD is depegged, right, and it say it's 95 cents or whatever to the dollar, so you can basically buy the 95. You can buy the FXUSD. You can redeem the underlying staked ETH for $1 worth of ETH. So, natural market makers are going to, want to, use that as an arbitrage opportunity. So it's another mechanism that's, self built into the system.
So let me add to this, Lester. So you think
Sure.
about this, right? So 2.0 stability pool is really a game changer to perp market liquidity and market making in DeFi, right? So for you to provide liquidity at any perp DEX, you need to take trading counterparty risk. Right? Why people provide liquidity at GMX and Hyperliquid, right? Because it's extremely attractive yield, right, from the trading fees. But people have to take the risk as a trading counterparty risk, right? If the traders are smart, right, and they capitalize on the market, at the right direction with leverage, right, the LP going to lose a lot of money, right? But with FX 2.0, it's stable farming only. You don't need to take any market volatility to earn perp trading commission, right? That's going to change, I think, perp market making and how liquidity is provided to the space completely, right? That's going to be a game changer to bring more DEX, volume on chain.
Absolutely. That's a very, very good point. The fact that you're basically taking the other side of the trade. If you're in GLP for GMX, you're basically taking, if the traders are doing really well, then the GLP LPs are not doing well, and that's not the case here with FX 2.0. It's just basically a delta neutral stability pool, a delta neutral LP.
And
another thing is that the underlying liquidity is coming from the staked ETH pool on Curve. So we're not necessarily having to build that liquidity. That liquidity already pre-exists. And I think that's a point that people usually miss when it comes to FX.
Yeah, and as long as there's volatility and X positions openings and closing and so on, there's going to be yield generated. So even if that because Nick says that obviously the flash loans create a selling pressure on FXUSD that could lead to depeg, but the stability pool, remember the stability pool in that case will probably only be filled with USDC that will be ready to buy this FXUSD, that's strengthening the peg, and this stability pool will capture all the yield coming from the trading, the opening and closing of X positions. So as long as there's volatility and X positions opening and closing, as Charlene said, it's just you're providing liquidity without being the counterparty of the traders. And that's a unique value proposition. And that yield is coming to the stability pool. And the stability pool only takes the risks of the redemption fee of FXUSD because most of the fees goes to the stability pool. And there's also a question asked by Wolfram. Obviously, some of the fees will go to VFXN because 100% of the revenue generated by the protocol is distributed to the users one way or another. But most of it is going to go to the stability pool in order to make sure it's very attractive. And as a matter of fact, it's probably going to be the most attractive, stable farming strategy around because most of its yield is going to be really coming from e-staking and per trading, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be the best for USDC. It's going to be the highest.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Kim has answered mint redeem fee go to VFXN. That's for 1.0. For 2.0, part of that going to stability pool, right? Part of that going to VFXN. So for people who have been following us for a while, right? So FX, it's known that we generate a good revenue on weekly basis, right? On weekly consistent basis. right?
Yeah.
And for the TVL, for the existing TVL we generate a very good revenue, right? And that's mostly coming from like the mint and the redeem fee moving out of X position, right? So when we move from 1.0 to 2.0, we actually go from low variable leverage to high fixed leverage, right?
Yep.
So when you go to high fixed leverage, right, you can support more frequent like trading activities, and that's probably going to explode on trading demand and the commissions generated at the same time.
Yeah, so we provide a lot more to the stability pool to make that as robust as possible and attract as much capital. But at the same time, because it is a fixed leverage product, there's going to be much more trading, especially at the higher leverage levels. And those trading fees are going to end up in VEFXN holders. So even though it's a smaller piece, it's going to be a much larger pie. And so we expect those fees to explode. I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, maybe to summarize what Nick's concern, the worst case scenario is that FXUSD gets slightly depegged and the X minting positions are handled for a while, and all the different mechanisms come into place to restore the peg. And if any X position is closed, that brings more fees, more yield, more attractivity to the stability pool that will buy FXUSD on the market and reopen X position minting, basically.
Yeah.
So as long as
should we
there's
explain?
volatility, we should be fine. Do you guys think there's going to be still volatility on the crypto markets in the coming years?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be short on volatility. That's for sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. This product is definitely more geared towards trading. At the lower leverage levels, that's the cool thing about this too. I think we should mention this. At the lower leverage levels, like 2 and 3x, you can hold those positions for a pretty long period of time, no funding costs. Very low chance of any liquidation level, being hit or rebalance being hit or liquidation break. But it could happen, but it's very low risk there. But at the higher leverage levels, people are going to be trading in and out because they obviously don't want to hit. They don't want to lose their principal, right? They don't want to have principal loss.
But that's
So
also the usage of a high leverage, right? Who holds a 10x over a month except high stakes capital?
Right. Exactly. And to be able to do this in a very decentralized manner where your X position is basically let's say you're on the positive side of a trade, ETH goes up 10% and you're on, or 5%, you're on 10x leverage, you're up 50%, you're basically redeeming, your X position for 50% more ETH, right from a decentralized curve pool. So, it's a different mechanism. It doesn't rely on centralized exchanges. It doesn't rely on these centralized risks. It's a very, very cool, innovative product, and I think it's going to change the way perps. It's really changing two things. It's changing the perp DEX, and it's changing the way stablecoins are designed as well. Because again, the stablecoin FXUSD becomes sort of the byproduct of this whole, mechanism, and that's very, very different. We've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, there's another question from Nick asking what other fees are there for the traders from protocol side? And he's looking forward to try it out. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Nick. Happy to hear that. So the only fees are the minting and redeeming fees of X positions, and then there also can be liquidation break fees. So basically the rebalancing fees in case you reach that threshold. There is a fee that is distributed to the keeper handling the rebalancing. But that's all.
Yeah,
So
we're trying to keep the system as.
There's
Go
nothing
ahead,
else.
sir.
nothing to handle except like paying your minting fee, your redeeming fee, and just looking at the price and the liquidation break bands. That okay, there's going to be a fee in case of rebalancing, but it's going to be like nothing to compare to being liquidated, right?
Right. Right. What would you prefer? Like, the alternative is if you're in a perp dex and you're down, on a 10x leveraged position, you're down 10%, you're wiped out 100%. That's not the case with FX 2.0. When it drops by 50%, more or less, I think that's around the range, then your position is basically reset at a 10x leverage. So you have like Cyril was saying, you have another life, there, and you can basically take that rebound on the upside. And we've never seen a perp dex do anything like that before. So you no longer have to pay funding costs. You have a liquidation break to protect you from scam wicks like that. It's totally decentralized, so you're not relying on any particular centralized exchange. It just seems like there's so many benefits, something like this. That Cyril, can you explain? I know, it came up yesterday in a couple of chats too, is about the volatility decay. Some people think there's volatility decay, but with 2.0, there is no volatility decay, and it's part of the way the exposition is designed. Can you explain a little bit better? Because even I don't understand that 100%, or maybe Charlene, maybe you're the best person to explain that a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a very intangible effect to understand the volatility decay. So even for me, it's still a little blurry.
Tricky.
But it's the fact that basically when you hold, like when the leverage is variable, if the best example is like leverage ETF, right? That's the kind of products that kind of reveal the volatility decay effect to the retail users. And it's the fact that when you get when the leverage is fluctuating, when it's variable, you may have more leverage during downsides of the market than during upsides, right? So if you enter the market when the index is, I don't know, let's say 2000, and the market goes to 1,800, for instance, and back to 2,000, your principal may be lower than it used to be when you entered. And that's the volatility decay effect. And that's something that can happen, for instance, on V1. Not all the time, but it can happen. But it's not the case on V2. And and that's also a very unique value proposition, because it's very unusual around. Because the leverage is fixed, or tending to be fixed, to be correct, but it's mostly fixed. The volatility decay on V2 is not significant at all.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, because I think, with V1, I think that was one of the, I don't want to say complaints, but it was one of the concerns that people had, and they brought up in the Discord, that they were worried about. It was unpredictable leverage, right? It was not very predictable based on, when they entered or when they exited, market conditions, that sort of thing. And now with 2.0 and with expositions, they've been able to solve, the team has been able to solve this problem, and basically now there's no volatility decay.
Absolutely, and it was a very legitimate concerns with V1, and as a matter of fact, it can happen, but the leverage level also has been very well arbitraged on V1, so people get kind of always took the opportunity of seizing high leverage, and we've seen the leverage kind of settling around 2 on the V1 products. That will like to answer a potential question here. V1 will stay around. V2 is just built on top, and so V1 is also an awesome design for any kind of tokens, and it could be like open to other tokens basically. But V2 is solving very many different aspects, especially that chicken and egg situation of attracting both stable farming people and leverage taking people at the same time, which is totally solved with V2 design, enabling unique value propositions for both traders and stable farmers.
Yeah, maybe I can add to this as well. So volatility decay happens when your leverage level, gets changed along the way, right? So when you go back to the same token price, right? So your value, the net value of your leverage position may be different. So volatility decay can happen, like both way. It can happen in good way or bad way. You can get a little bit more money or less money when you go back to the same token price level, right? So we understand that people want more certainty, right? So they can have better prediction on the value they can
Right.
get. So which we make that changes, right? So for V2, we don't have this unless you change the leverage along the way yourself, right? This is supported by the system, right? So you can change the leverage if you want to, but if you don't do that yourself, when you go back to the same price, right? So most likely you're going to get the same value unless you get a rebalance event, right? And the rebalance only happen as a downside protection, right? The system protect you and just reduce minimum collateral, right, to keep you, stay in the game. So you always have capital, to capitalize on the upside when market rebounds.
Yeah, and maybe we should add to that because you mentioned, changing the leverage position. Are we going to be able to change the leverage position on the fly, or are we going to be able to add to the leverage position?
Correct. You need to change your leverage position by changing the position, right? Say you open a position of 2x, and later on you add to that position with another 4x position, right? So
Mhm.
you're going to get a blended leverage position with the
A
two
3, yeah,
combined. Yeah.
right. Okay, so that's something we should mention, is that there is an ability you can add to your position.
Correct.
Basically, you can have, but it would show up as 2 open positions, right?
No, you
Not
show up
1.
as one position.
Oh, it will
It's,
show up as 1.
it's
Okay.
consistent with all the perp, CEX and DEX practice,
Okay.
right? So,
Very cool.
you're going to see your blended position after,
Oh,
right? So you can
okay.
add to your position and reduce your position with a different leverage level, right? Then you change your leverage basically.
Excellent. And we probably should mention, I know this has been on, I've seen some of these questions in the Discord as well. There is going to be a new user interface, obviously, because this is geared more towards a trading sort of environment. So it's going to look and feel a little bit more like a perp DEX, so that it's easy for people who are used to those types of platforms to be able to migrate over to something like FX 2.0.
Yes, correct.
I do think people should know that because that question has come up a little bit, and how people manage these positions and all of that. It's going to look more like a perp DEX.
Yeah. So don't be shy to share your UI work when you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. I'll actually, I'll throw it in the Discord, or I'll send a little bit of a screenshot so people can kind of get an idea. These are just mock-ups. They're not 100% done yet, but I'll share that today so that people can take a look at that. Is there anything else that we should talk about? Is there anything like we've missed? Or, I mean, I know we hit all of the high level points, but I'm just trying to think if there's something are there any other questions that maybe we should address?
Maybe it's important to also explain that, as always, we plan for any kind of situation. So if the rebalancing events don't work as expected, there is a liquidation possibility, which is very minimized, and we want to make sure it happens. Never happens, basically. But there is a liquidation mechanism to always protect the peg.
Yeah, and that's a very, very extreme
Because
situation.
I have to jump to an interview with a project about V2. So
Sure.
So if there's no question, I will leave in a couple of minutes.
It's fine. I don't know if anybody has any other questions.
Can we migrate from XETH V1 to V2? Can we answer that question, Charlene?
Yes. Oh, sorry. EETH. That's
From XETH, sorry. Can we migrate from XETH V1 to V2?
not for XETH. Not for XETH, unfortunately, because that's a different pair, right? That pair with FETH. So we're going to have a migration plan for the 2X token backed but with paired with FXUSD. The one backed by Lido ETH and Frax ETH. We're going to come out with more details on this, how the migration works later.
Okay, so people will be able to, to migrate from their current X tokens to X
Correct.
position in 2.0.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
And there's a question from Hill about ALD, and it's the second time you asked the question. Obviously, today is not the topic, ALD. We are all hands on FX protocol V2 for now, but we're indirectly working for ALD as well, because as you guys probably know, ALD holds 30% of all of Aladdin products tokens. So yeah, focus is on V2, then we can go back to ALD.
Is there anything else that we should bring up, or?
Oh, I see from Warfriend's question that there's people in the USDC FXUSD pool can migrate to the new stability pool as well. It's probably important to understand that it's two different stable strategies, right? I could feel some kind of confusion around. It's two different stable strategies. The USDC FXUSD pool on Curve will basically earn FX and emissions and possibly CRV emissions, but for now it's FX and emissions on Curve, on top of Curve. While the stability pool will also be USDC and FXUSD exposed and earn not only FXN but also everything we said, trading commissions and stake ETH yield, basically. So it's two different, and you can obviously migrate from one to another. Both are very important for the protocol. You can do whatever you want. It's different risk profile, obviously, but different yields as well.
Yeah, so you'll be able to be in either of those two pools, but they're two separate stability pools.
We've got to go, guys. It was a pleasure to join that community call. It's been a long time, and it feels very good to be here all around.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
actually, Charlene, maybe you can give us an update. Like, what does the time frame look like? I know that things are still in audit right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are all focused on audit, testing, and UI work. And we should be on track to launch in early September.
Okay. Early September or early December?
December. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm too excited. I can't wait.
Yeah,
December.
I know. Me too. Me too. So yeah, so about 4 weeks. About 4 weeks, I think, right?
Correct.
That's good. Okay. Great. I can't see the question, so I don't know if there's other things that we should be. I'm trying to look for them, but I can't find the section with the questions. So if there's anybody who can maybe like just read them or whatever, then we can maybe answer them if there's anything that anybody has left.
No, all the questions have been answered, so
They've all been answered.
no
Okay. Is there
new-
anything, Paul or Charlene? Is there anything that we should mention that maybe we haven't mentioned or that maybe we left out?
None
I mean,
that
I'm
can
sure we'll have
tell.
we may have another call or two in the future just to keep going, just to keep educating people on V2. But I'm sure we'll do one as we launch the product as well. But is there anything that maybe we missed or that we should touch on?
I think you guys have covered everything. And I think 2.0 is definitely like, more complex product than 1.0,
Yeah.
mechanism wise, right? But UI wise, it will be very straightforward. And yeah, so I think we should do, multiple calls to educate the community, right? And warm people
Sure.
up on 2.0 before we launch formally.
Yeah, and I'm also going to be working on more, I'm also going to be working on more videos, hopefully explainer videos, hopefully one about liquidation break, one hopefully about the stability pool. So there will be more of that, to help. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is an education process. It's not, it's definitely a complex system. But if we keep doing what we're doing, I think we can explain it to the users, and I think it's going to be. I think this is a really remarkable system, and I think that the fees that are going to be generated to VEFXN is going to be. I mean, I've had all kinds of predictions in my mind, but it's hard for me to say. But I think that if trading becomes a big deal and TVL shoots up, then I think this is going to be a very, very big deal.
Yeah. Comments. The video from yesterday is really good. Thank you. Amazing job.
Oh,
Lester,
thank you. Thank you.
you're going to release a couple more, right?
Yes, I do. I want to do targeted ones, right? So one about liquidation break. So we did one. The first one was really more about how the minting process works, and how FXUSD is minted using the flash loan. But now I want to do one about how the liquidation break works and how rebalance works to prevent liquidations. And then I want to also maybe make one specific about the stability pool and what's going to be earned and the benefits of people adding their liquidity to the stability pool. So at least those three major points, I'd like to create videos for that. So look for those in the next couple of weeks. I'll try to have them ready before we launch the official product. And then they are a little time consuming to make, but I think that the videos help people understand, oh, this is how it works. This is what I get it now, so I think it's helpful in that regard.
Cool. Paul said many people ask for rebalance in uptrend. What do you mean, Tom? What do you mean rebalancing in uptrend?
There is no rebalance in uptrend, right? As long as it's going up, everybody's happy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think people was asking about when they open at a fixed leverage, then when the ETH price going up, their real-time leverage will going down, right? So it's like they need to manually to do that, or their system supporting that.
What they try to do?
Like another kind of a rebalancing, right? Like
So people
borrowing
want
more.
to increase their real-time leverage.
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. I think it should not be like a system providing like by default, but it should be like allowing a user to do that. Like even the uptrend, I want to continue like keep like 5x or something like that.
So people can add another position, right? So say their current position, right? Their real-time leverage goes down, right? They can add another position with a higher leverage, right? So the weighted leverage will be higher, right? After the two positions are mixed together. So that's consistent with all the perp DEX and CEX practice.
I totally agree. It will be the same of the current perpetual market. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try to release some screenshots of the new potential design for the new UI, so that people can kind of get an idea of what this might look like here later today. I'll post in the Discord.
Yeah, I think
Are there any
we
other
answered all the
questions?
questions that we had so far. So
Okay. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else,
I think we can wrap it up.
we can wrap it up. We will do more of these. I'm sure we'll do like one or two more, before the product releases. Expect some videos to come out. Expect some images of the design, the UI design to come out as well. FX 2.0 is going to be a game changer for the stablecoin world and for the perp trading world. So I'm really, really excited about what the team's been able to create. And I think the future is going to be very, very bright for Aladdin and for FX. And on that note, I will close. Is anybody, I really appreciate you guys joining, and look forward to talking to you guys again.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Thank you,
Cheers.
guys.
Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.